Hey guys, it is James here. How are you doing? This is a bit of an impromptu Facebook Live, so just checking out to see who's around. I've just come back from holiday and bassline really grabs my attention. I discovered a brand new artist which I'd never discovered before, and I wanted to just just go through one of his bass lines because it really pricked up my ears, and there's an amazing story to this artist too. So yeah, if you're watching, please do say hello, and there's a new thing on the Facebook screen. Put a mask on to give yourself a fun look and tap the magic wand. Nope, I'm not going to do that because I want to teach you guys some bass. I'm going to give you a few more minutes to come on. I've just come back from amazing week in the sun with my girlfriend in Tenerife, visiting some of her family who are living out there, and so yeah, lapped up some sun, came back to England. It's about 10 degrees here. It's really cold. It was about the best part of, we hit 37 degrees. They came back from the island of Tenerife, which is a bunch of Canary Islands just off the, just off the coast of Africa, the west coast of Africa. So yeah, we're going to get on with this. I probably will go over this part again a little bit later in the video when more people have joined us for the live stream. So please, if you're watching this, please do say hello, comment below. I always love grabbing some feedback. Just checking I've got the right setting up on the computer here. So cool, please do comment and say hello. It's always good to know. So yeah, I was up late one night in where were we, in northern Tenerife, watching a film with my girlfriend's sister's husband. He is a DJ and has this kind of weirdly encyclopedic knowledge of music, but he didn't know what was coming up here. And so we were sitting up late night having a couple of beers, watching, finding a film to watch, and we discovered, or I saw on Netflix, that there was this Searching for Sugar Man film on there, which I'd heard a bunch about. It's been out a few years now. My parents have been to see it, and it was just like, you've got to see it, but I never quite ever got round to it. But yeah, we put it on, and it was just like, wow, one of those films which really moved me. I'll go through, basically it is this story of this American artist called Rodriguez, who was recorded a couple of albums, late 60s, early 70s, a real fantastic kind of Bob Dylan, a real sort of visionary sort of artist, I think, but never had any commercial success, which is a real shame because the albums were made in Detroit and had some amazing musicians on it. The great Bob Babbitt, I've just found out, was on his record, who is bass royalty in our world. So anyway, this Rodriguez chap, he never really had a huge amount of commercial success at the time. However, some bootlegs got out to South Africa, which is amazing, and they kind of ended up releasing the albums there. So all the Rodriguez albums were released there, and they became absolutely cult albums. They said in the documentary that it was up there. Like one of the Rodriguez albums was, if you own that album, it's as big as Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon Garfunkel and Abbey Road by the Beatles. So I mean, that's kind of how huge the album was out there. But yet they, being pre-internet and just like an album which kind of basically, both albums sort of commercially flopped, and there was no real paper trail apart from this sort of, I guess, what was going on in South Africa, which I don't know too much about politically what was going on at the time, but it was quite a what went on in South Africa kind of stayed there, really. They didn't have that much sort of Western influence. Great, we've got more people joining the live stream here. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of connection with the rest of the world during that period, and so yeah, having artists like that come over and perform would have never kind of really ever happened. But a couple of, I guess, musicologists, I believe, in the 90s went out to try and find out about this guy and see if they could locate him. They wanted to know what the story was, and it's amazing. They're looking through the liner notes, no, not the liner notes, the lyrics even, and like going, okay, where do we think he was from? Because like great artist is a real poet too, has sort of gives clues in his lyrics, and they tracked him down to Detroit by a particular lyric which was in there, and via some internet forums they got in touch with a member of his family, and there were a couple of rumours that he'd set himself on fire on stage, and I can't remember another another way that he'd apparently died. So they didn't know if they were even if the guy was even alive at that point, which is an amazing story. Yet he was working as a construction worker in Detroit, living a pretty ordinary, basic kind of lifestyle. And they got in touch, and he ended up going off and doing a couple of amazing sold-out gigs in big arenas in South Africa, late 90s, I think 98, I think. And then off the back of that, a bunch of tours happened. He became the artist we've sort of know today, or is much more greatly known than he ever was in South Africa. If you've heard of Rodriguez and you're watching, I love it if you could comment below if you've heard any of his music. But anyway, obviously that's just like an amazing story in itself, how he spent the best part of, I think, probably 25 years without any success. Little know that he was a total rock star in South Africa. That's a totally amazing story, but there was one bass line in there. The reason I'm talking about this is there was a bass line in there which really just sparked my interest, made me sit up and listen to what's going on there. And just occasionally this happens to me. I don't know if it happens to you too, where you just hear something and it really resonates, and it can be something for me that's an amazingly technically, which just makes my jaw kind of hit the floor, some face melting kind of thing, which is pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of as players, or it can be just something which is beautiful music. And this is in the beautiful music category, I believe, although it is quite tricky. It's got some curveballs in it, and I got back from holiday last night and just picked the bass up acoustically and going, well, what is this? Put it on the phone, and I was there, kind of real lo-fi kind of thing, and trying to work it out. And I was just like, there's so much in there. This is such a kind of cheeky sort of bass line that I wanted to take it apart, and I realised there's kind of a lot I can show you guys, and the process that I used to take it apart, which was really cool, and show you what's in it, because it's an interesting process that you go through when you learn a bass line, and you go from not knowing it to kind of knowing it a bit, and you're not quite sure of it, and then it kind of falls into place, and then eventually it's there and you can start grooving on it, and as a bass player we can break out a little bit and riff out and really get to grips with it. And I kind of went through that process at about 11 o'clock last night, through this morning, tinkering around with it, and yeah, and I want to share some of those ideas with you. If you watch the film, it's called Searching for Sugar Man, there's this amazing part where he just walks out on stage at the front of the concert. I mean, it must be 2/3 of the way through the film, and he walks out, and yeah, this crowd's going nuts, and the bass player's playing this riff underneath, and it goes on for ages upon ages. And I was listening to this riff and I couldn't quite place what was going on. And a lot of the time when you've been playing a while, you can kind of hear what's going on, but this had something a little bit unusual. I'm going to play it to you, and so you can hear this riff first of all. Hopefully you'll hear straight off that this isn't musically anything particularly complicated, but it's got a couple of corners in, which we'll talk about. So it's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So basically, that's the start of the concert, and the bass player is literally just riffing around that with all these guys going absolutely nuts, having seen their idol for, I don't know, like the very, very first time ever. But I was listening to this and I just couldn't quite place where the one was. It had this syncopation, and if you don't know what the word syncopation means, that means offbeat. And I couldn't quite place it. It was almost a little bit reminiscent of sort of music, salsa music, the tumbao that they use in salsa, where everything is, where everything's off the beat. It took me a long time to really get comfortable with that bass line when I was like, I don't know, 20 or something like that. It was like 6 months of hard graft, because you're displaced and it's very easy to lose where the pulse is. I mean, yeah, or reggae music where they're emphasising the two of the bar a little bit more, or anything where the beat one isn't defined, because when we're playing pop, rock, funk music, sort of anything basically Western along those lines, we naturally latch on to beat one of the bar. That is the most important beat of the bar, and knowing where that is like our orientation on the map. It's like knowing where the big city is and then being able to find a small village. If you don't know where the big city is, you won't be able to find the small village from it. So that, if you take away anything from this, it's knowing where your one is. And just a tip, if you don't know where one is, ask another musician. I used to be so embarrassed when I was kind of younger, and I had to go, where's the one? I felt like it should be so obvious, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the rest of the musicians don't know either, and I've had that a bunch of times, or it may take someone to go, crack, here's one. But anyway, I'm going slightly off subject. But anyway, this line was 2, 3, 4, 1. And when I started taking it apart last night, what I realised it was doing, it was playing off beat 1 and. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 1, 2. Okay, and it that last note lands on beat 4. If you've got questions about this, please do ask below. I will go through them. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. Yeah, so that starts on that goes on so well. Hey Michael, we just say thank you for so much for what you do. Absolute pleasure. I love doing what I do for you guys. Yeah, so that bounces off beat 1, and so until you've got your orientation of where beat 1 in the bar is, it can be quite tricky. And so I realised as soon as I got it on a pair of headphones, listen closely, I could hear where it was. But what kind of happened is you got the notes there, so there, and I could hear it was this major pentatonic idea. As you'll start to hear what the majors and the minor pentatonics, your key scales will sound like, and I could hear the major pentatonic, so I was kind of pretty clear on what was going on there, but it was sort of behaving slightly differently, and I'll explain why in just a second. Because we have these chords going on at the top, and it has this cycling chord sequence going on. It's really simple. I'll play it to you. So it's a bar of A to a bar of A major 7, like that. So that's a real common sound. Get those to... Okay, if you need any help with identifying that sound, is Something in the Way She Moves by the Beatles attracts me like no. I'm not going to try and sing, but Something by the Beatles. If you want to hear that sound of going from major to major 7 chord to dominant 7, that's that sound. So, but here the Rodriguez gun goes like that, and then it just goes to chord 4 after that. Yeah, so A, yeah, let's get this right. So A to da da ga to D do ba da. Should have jazzed it up a little bit there. Excuse the jazz there, but that's basically it's this kind of folky chord sequence going round, but it's got this bass line on the bottom, and naturally I work out it's an A major, and so I think, okay, we're going to be starting on the A major pentatonic, and naturally again, I will head to the rig. I'll go, that doesn't sound quite right. What's going on here? And after a couple more lessons, I realise it's not starting on the root. So we get this idea. So it actually starts on the fifth. So we get this E, and then we go up the major pentatonic from the fifth. Like this. So rather than starting on the root, we're starting on the fifth. So if we play the A major pentatonic, here we go, like that. I've changed the fingering a little bit so it works under the neck. So it is the A major pentatonic, so E, F sharp to A, B, or slide from B to C sharp. If you guys want, I'll do you a tab to go this. I'll put it on the website at some point, and you can download the tab. I'll get this written out for you with the dots and the tab, so you can, to make it simpler, so you don't have to go through. I've done the hard work kind of for you. And it ends up with this line going on. So it starts on the dominant or the fifth of the chord, and so you end up with this kind of, and it's a real unique kind of sound. So if I play a major seven, if I play an A major, okay, up here, and then I'm going to try and put it like that, you end up with that going on, and that's what it's a very unique sound, putting the fifth in the bass. It doesn't clash, but it kind of has this moment of suspense. It's kind of unresolved, and so it has this effect. So how the song starts off is it's just the bass doing this. This idea. Going on like that. But after, I think, a couple of cycles of that, the band comes in and the chords come in. So this. Obviously jangly kind of open chords sound a little bit different, but this bass riff goes on. It's sort of, if we use the classical term for it, it's called an ostinato. We have this line going on underneath, and I've got my computer's just turned itself off. Let me just put the code in, and I've got this programmed up, this chord sequence. I just put it into a piece of software called Band in a Box. Check it out. You can type the chords in, literally tap in the chords, and it puts a musical style to it. The feel of this is kind of a shuffle idea, so I've picked a rocky kind of shuffle thing. They're not the world's most accurate things in the world, but they give you something to work to, because you can choose a feel which is roughly right, and you can get the chord sequences in, and you can pump. This took me the best part of 2 minutes to make before we went live here. So yeah. Cool. If you are watching this and you've got any questions, please do ask. This is completely live. Happy to answer anything. If you want to wait till we're a little bit further into the lesson, that's equally cool too. So I'm going to put this on so you can hear this track here. If the level's out on your end, I never quite know how the iPhone's going to pick this up. Let me know. But see. You can hear that chord. So you can hear that chord sequence go around. It's not the most inspiring style in the world, but it works for demonstration of practicing this and practicing this idea and really hearing how this ostinato bass line goes under. So let's play it. Now I'm going to sit on this bass line for a few times, and so you can hear how it changes, the chords change underneath, because this is what gives it kind of that tension and release idea that you may have heard me talking about, because bits of it do clash, but it comes round and resolves again. So you end up with this sort of, yeah, really cool tension release going on. So let's play it, and I'll put a line over it. Okay, so you can hear we're always pulling back to this E, although we're in the key of A major over the top. So if I just labour the point, you will hopefully hear what I mean. So you can hear, particularly, it will come around and resolve on the last chord. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Ask if you don't have any questions to it. But that's a great device that composers use in pop music, particularly to get a little bit of tension in there. So let me play it to you once more. We're coming around again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we go, we've gone around. So now, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the line itself. I was doing some internet-based research on this, being the naturally inquisitive kind of character I am, and wanting to know a little bit more about, who the musicians may have been on this. Because, let's face it, for 20 odd years it was a total mystery what was going on with these couple of albums. And it turns out, looking at a page, that it was the great Bob Babbitt on bass. So Bob Babbitt was one of the Motown guys. Along the lines working alongside James Jamerson, etc., etc. He did some amazing records with Blues Brothers, Aretha Franklin, etc., etc. So if you're not familiar with Bob Babbitt's work, I do implore you to go and check him out. He's a phenomenal bass player in that style. But it makes sense to me that it is Bob Babbitt. I hope the source on the internet is accurate. I think it was the guy's blog who made the film. So hopefully it's 100% accurate. But it would make sense that it is Bob Babbitt, because Bob Babbitt was a Detroit guy, and Rodriguez was from Detroit, or is from Detroit, mid-70s I think now, and I'd love to see him live actually. So it would make sense that Bob Babbitt did the session on there. So if anybody's got any information to the contrary, you're welcome to comment below, or ask, start a conversation. I think definitely Bob Babbitt on there. Also the bass sound would figure as well. It's that lovely old warm kind of precision-y type sound. Definitely flat wounds on there, I'd say. So it figures to me in my eyes, but as always, the internet isn't 100% accurate the whole time. So let's just talk a little bit about the line before we put it into the kind of the groovy context, because there's some great stuff when we get into the groove here. This line, how I think of this is E at the 7th, F sharp at the 7, 9, always get a bit dyslexic when working out my numbers here, 7, 9, okay, and then I go to an A at the 7th fret on the D string, and then the 9th fret on the B string, like that. So classic box shape. Okay, and then push it up into the C sharp. Okay, up to the C sharp, slide into that, and then straight back to the A, then to the F sharp, and then down to the E. So 5, 6, 8 or octave, second, 3, root, 6, 5. Like that. Now, doing my research again before I made this video, I watched a couple of live versions of Rodriguez's playing this, and one of his bass players doesn't do the slide. He plays it all using the one finger per fret technique. You know I'm a keen advocate of learning the one finger per fret technique. It's a much cleaner way of doing it. It's just cleaner as in terms of sound. That's not necessarily a positive or a negative. It's just cleaner because you... Okay, so some people might prefer that sound. I personally prefer the nuance, having that slide in there. And this made me think about all the different ways you could play this line, and I've sort of found 3 key ways, one of which I actually find quite hard. And when students have often said to me, I can't find anything to practice or something, you can always find little things to practice when you learn a new line. And that's one of the things I always love to teach is try and play. You've learned it one way, try and play it with a different fingering or a different area of the fingerboard. You'll find something there, because we very much are creatures that sit in our comfort zone of how we play things, but if we can find a different way of playing it, it could be equally cool. So there's that one, or starting on a second finger, or there's this one. Okay, starting on a 4th finger. Like that, which is a real 1-finger fret. Okay, and I'll tell you the bit, I'll be totally honest, the bit that I find tricky in there is, and it goes up to your 3rd finger there, down to there, down to your 4th finger. Okay, so it's using your 2 weaker fingers, so it's actually a really good way of stretching and gaining finger strength. Like this. If I ramp the tempos up, you'll find out where I run out of steam on that. But yeah, great finger exercises, and so you can always find something cool where in a bass line that you're working out from a record. You can always, I encourage students to sort of do this sort of self-exploration practice. You can always find something interesting that way. So let's put the bass line together. So when the band comes in, the song comes in, it goes into a more regular bass line, because if they carry that on ostinato on, there's no kind of real pinning the bottom end of the band down. So they bring in more of a regular bass line, so the arse doesn't drop out of it, basically. And I'll play that to you now. Then I'm going to show you the little bit of magic which happens with this bass line in just a second. Okay, it's kind of literally all it is, really. So, and then maybe dropping to the lower 5th like that to go between the chords. So that's literally all it is. But that would be a bit dull. It does its fundamental job of pinning down the bottom end, which is really cool. I like that very much. However, it's lost that real kind of interesting flavour from the ostinato, I'm going to call it, bass line. So what it very cleverly does is integrate that into the sequence, which I think is just magical. So we end up with this going on, which is really, really cool. So every 2 bars, they use that line to transition the chord, or to create a little fill, rather than improvising a fill, which might be a common thing to do. They use that line, so it always kind of hooks back to that amazing idea that they did at the beginning of the track. However, what they do is they displace it by a beat further. So as you remember, I say it comes off beat 1 and. This time it comes off beat 2 and, so it's 1, 2. Like that. 1, 2. 1, 2. Go. And I'll be perfectly honest here, when I was practicing this last night, or just trying to work out what was going on, it tied me in knots for a few minutes, because the line wasn't quite doing what I expected. because I know that bass line, and it's actually bugging me. I can't think of the name of the song. It's an old Motown song. If anybody can remember what it is, do comment, because I can't off the top of my head. But I know that's a kind of line which is in my muscle memory, is to go bum, and to put two E's at the front. And so when I was playing this initially, I was going, which with two E's at the front, but I realised it wasn't right, and so I sort of had to strip it back and play something for a few minutes which was a little bit uncomfortable, and then I worked out what it was, and I go, it's just the same line as it was before. It took a little while for it just to sort of sink in, and before it was comfortable. So okay, and then one, two, 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 like that. I think I played the double actually right at the end there. But you see the idea, and it was just one of these things that just pushed me a little bit out of my comfort zone. This isn't difficult music per se to playing, I don't know, a bit of Way Out Chick Corea or something like that, but it has its challenges in it. It has these little things that will push you and just be something which isn't already perhaps in your musical language, and you've learned something new and something different. And that happened to me. I learned about a new artist, I discovered something cool, a great story. I love stories in music which move you, because any of these great artists, I think any musician to a certain extent, puts a lot of themselves into what they are doing and creates this body of work, which he clearly did, and it's great to see it have the recognition I think it deserves. So just to put this back into context to show you a little bit more, what becomes interesting is when you know a bass line, you start to, you naturally feel where the spaces are to break out and improvise a little bit, and where the more preset parts of a groove are. And in this, I think the preset part is actually the fill, is actually the groove, which has a little bit more space to sort of do your own thing on. So it took me a while to figure out where that space was, and by while I mean sort of fiddling around with it for half an hour last night. So it's part of the process is I always find when learning a bass line and kind of getting it into that unconscious competence state is finding out where that space is. So let me show you this, and I actually think a lot of the space, and you can hear Bob Babbitt very clearly doing the parts he breaks out on are over kind of bar 3. So when we go to the D, and then he pulls it back in again on bar 4, because he's got to get that line back in there again. So let me demonstrate. I'm going to mess around with it a little bit, put my own flavour on it, put my own take on what this is, and yeah, let's see what happens. I'm going to mess around, have some fun as we're kind of coming to the end of this Facebook Live. Don't forget, if you want to grab the tab, grab the music dots for this, the PDF, do comment below, and we'll sort that one out for you. So let's try it. Ostinato. Okay, let's go. see the idea. Yeah, Jim's just mentioned Smokey Robinson. Yes, you got it, Jim. Yes, yes, yes. I couldn't get it. You've really got a hold on me, totally. Yeah, so it's got that flavour to it, and I've played that a bunch of times on Motown shows, etc. Heard it, so that kind of was inside me. But to have something a little bit different was, yeah, it's something new, and that's part of the process of learning it. So yes. Like that. So that's the Smokey Robinson thing, isn't it? And then we have like that, which is maybe Smokey Robinson was an influence on Rodriguez. Who knows? I mean, same city, same kind of musical culture. I guess it's logical. Who knows? So yeah, I wanted to recount, yeah, just a musical thing that happened to me this week, a brand new artist. If you weren't on the beginning of the live stream, we're talking about a bass line called I Wonder, written by an amazing artist called Rodriguez, who worked out of Detroit in the late 70s, late 60s, early 70s. Never really had much commercial success, but bootlegs made their way to South Africa, and he became a rock star out there, and he didn't even know about it. And then some guys in the early 90s, mid 90s, musicologists went on a bit of a trip to search this guy out. It took a while because there was so little history written about him, but eventually they found him, and he was flown over to South Africa and put on big concerts and tours out there and got the recognition he deserved for this. Anyway, I'm going to start wrapping things up now. I wanted to take you through the process that I used to learn this. If you want to comment, please do comment below. If you're watching this again on kind of a rerun, because these Facebook Lives do stick around for quite a while, please comment below and ask any questions. We'll sort out a PDF for this lesson in due course. Anyway, I've been James here from eBassGuitar. I hope you've enjoyed this. Any last questions come up, please do please do comment below. Thank you guys for watching this live stream. It's always great to have a bunch of you on the call or watching the stream. I hope this has been helpful, and we're going to wrap it up there. Cheers for now. I will catch you later. Bye bye.